I never really understood SUV with coupe-like rooflines. Like, what's the point of that? Aren't you supposed to go for something rugged looking instead of something that looks kind of like sleek and sporty? And the BMW X3 with its X4 counterpart and the X5 with its X6 counterpart kind of proves that even though I'm not into it and I never got it, people are. And thank God for those people that there is yet another option for them now. This is the Lynk Co 05 all-wheel drive, basically the sporty fastback version of the Lynk Co 01. And in this video, let's see if this car is any good. So let's talk about the styling first of the Lynk Co 05. So starting off at the front over here, you'll notice that what's very prominent are the Aurora Borealis DRL. So these are located on either sides of the hood. To some people, this might look like a frog, kind of like the Nissan Juke. I also had the same comments when we first reviewed the Lynk Co 01. Now look further down below, and that's where your main headlamps are located. Being a very premium vehicle, you do get them in LEDs, of course. And the center grille, while it's not exactly the tallest, I really love the patterns that they gave you on it. Now, on the side of the Lynk Co 05, what you'll see here is that for the most part, it really does look like a Lynk Co 01. However, you do have that more fastback-like roofline. But what's pretty interesting here is just the general shape of the vehicle, because Peter Horbury, the designer of Volvo and Lynk Co 2, said that he wanted something that is both sleek and rugged, and really that is something that they have achieved right here. Your ground clearance is still at 213 millimeters, so it's still all that SUV crossover levels of ground clearance, but really the design looks pretty good. And speaking of the design too, they really did not cheap out right here, because they also gave you 20-inch rims, and these are not even wrapped in like cheap tires. These are Goodyear Eagle F1 tires, so you know you're getting top quality for your money. Now, as we move on over towards the rear of the Lynk Co 05, what you'll notice here is the very prominent spoiler because of that shape of that fastback-like roof. And also, you'll see here that you have the Lynk Co badging, right? But I'm gonna ask you, how are you gonna turn on, or how are you gonna open this tailgate rather? Well, there doesn't seem to be any buttons over here. That's quite simple. You simply press inside the O in Lynk Co, and that does open up this tailgate, and technically that is a lift gate. Inside here you do have this parcel cover which you can pull out, and you have ample amounts of space for about 2 medium-sized luggages, or maybe even 1 balikbayan box. In case that is still not enough for you, you can also fold down those rear seats 60/40. Also, if you lift up this false floor, there's room for some more extra space. There's even an Infinity branded subwoofer back here, and that's because this car does come with a 10-speaker Infinity audio system. Now, as we close up this lift back right here, you also see that there is what Lynk Co calls the Energy Cube rear combination tail lamps. Now, they look pretty cute, sure, but what I like more and what I think is a little bit more on the attention to detail part on Lynk Co's end is if you look over here at the side, there's even this extra panel which does have the Lynk Co lettering on it. I don't know, just like it. Now, if you look down below too, to make it extra sporty, remember, sleek and rugged at the same time, you also get the sporty dual exhaust pipes, and these are both real pipes, by the way. Well, the Lynk Co 05 is just the fastback-defied version of the Lynk Co 01. What isn't too similar among these two vehicles are the engine options, at least here in the Philippines, because instead of having a 1.5-liter engine paired to an electric motor, what you have here instead for the 05 is a 2-liter turbocharged gasoline engine, making 254 horsepower and 350 Nm of torque, a considerable amount of torque more compared to the 01. This is also mated to an 8-speed Aisin automatic transmission, and inside the city, you can expect to return around 5.7 kilometers per liter, and this is with incredibly heavy city traffic. But on the highway, you can expect upwards or minimum of around 15 kilometers per liter. Now we move inside the interior of the Lynk Co 05, and first we check the door thud. Sounds really good. Sounds very European indeed. So in here, the cabin at first glance, it kind of looks pretty similar to the Lynk Co 01. No surprise there, right? However, you do not get that recycled cloth type material. Admittedly, that was pretty good too, but this one is even better. This is actually Nappa leather, and you even have like a 3-tone effect in here. You have it in black, you have it in white, and you even have lots of green stitching. And that green stitching does continue all around the cabin, which does give this a very sporty like vibe. The steering wheel is also real nice, real padded, and leather wrapped too, with paddle shifters at the back, and of course tilt and telescoping. This is also where you'll find your buttons for your adaptive cruise control, your traffic jam assist, your lane keeping assist, your lane departure warning, and all that.
this has a full suite of advanced driver assistance systems. Now let's move back to the dashboard, and you'll also see that you have pretty nice materials on it. Move on over towards the doors and you get the same thing. Speaking of the doors too, this is also where you'll find your memory settings for your memory seat. So you get 2 settings for it. Pretty impressive. Now, the screens inside here, you have 2 screens. A 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, real nice to read, real easy to read too, very crisp. And at the center, you have this 12.8-inch touchscreen, which is incredibly responsive. Comes with wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and a 360-degree view camera too. That is super clear. Now, move a bit further down, and you have these knobs, 2 knobs actually. And what I really like about these knobs right here is Lynk & Co was still able to make a very sleek, a very minimalist using cabin while still giving you physical knobs. So this one on the left side, for example, this controls the temperature for the driver's side, and it even illuminates in blue if you turn it colder and illuminates in red if you turn it hotter. Now, if you press it once, it will sync both sides. Now, the other knob right here, that adjusts your fan speed, but press it once and adjust it again, and this now adjusts the temperature of the passenger side. See how clever that is? It still looks very minimalist, but still you won't get distracted while you drive. I really like that. A lot more manufacturers should really start doing that. Also, what's also pretty cool over here is you get ventilated seats. I mean, sure, yeah, there's nothing really special about that nowadays. However, what is special, not too cool though, is you only get heated and ventilated seats for the driver's side. The passenger gets only heated seats. Why? I don't know. That's the first time I've ever seen that on any car. Anyway, moving further down, you get a wireless charging pad. You have drive mode settings over here. You have an electronic parking brake, auto hold. Now, for the shifter, while it is very futuristic looking, this electronic shifter, look how you're supposed to use it. So, to go into drive from park, for example, you have to hit it twice going down. If you want to go into reverse, for example, you can't just push up once. You have to go neutral first and then reverse. I think that is definitely a Volvo thing, but they could have made our lives a little bit easier, but they didn't. But, I mean, just a minor complaint. Not really a deal breaker in my opinion. Anyway, those aside, you do have a panoramic sunroof on the top. And finally, can I just go back to the seats real quick, because I just want to talk about how nice the bolsters are. So these are really very sporty seats, so you can really push this car hard over bends without getting thrown on about. Now for the rear seats of the Lynk & Co 05, as usual, we check the door. Real nice. Okay, so back here, space is actually pretty good because of these like sporty bucket type seats at the front. You do actually get a little bit more extra legroom back here, and legroom wise, that really is good. However, because of this fastback like roofline, headroom, that could be a little bit more limited, especially when you compare it to the Lynk & Co 01, for example. So if you are, let's say, 5'9" or so, you might struggle a little bit back here in terms of headroom. Now, in terms of width too, while the car isn't exactly the widest, seating a third person here, it is kind of doable. Yeah, in terms of width, that is fine. However, what I'm not a big fan of is, since you do have these like semi-bucket seats at the back too, your butt don't really have space to spread over here at the back. At the same time, headroom is even more limited here at the center. But if you really have to do it in a pinch, you can do that. And although you do have a transmission tunnel, the feet room isn't too bad overall. Now, let's go back to the seat right here, and let's now talk about the materials that you have. So, just like the front of the cabin, you do have real nice materials over at the side. You still do have ambient lighting right here. You also still do get stitchings over here, so everything is real nice. You have this like Lynk & Co emblem plate here at the backrest too. You have a tiny map pocket. You have this center armrest with 2 cup holders, and you also get your own air vents plus USB-C port and a USB-A port. So now we drive the Lynk & Co 05 all-wheel drive, and driving this vehicle can be described in one word and one word alone. It is incredibly refined, because everything in here is just so smooth, from your power delivery, your transmission, your NVH suppression, your suspension, everything is just really good in here. So let's start off with the power, right? 254 horsepower is honestly a little bit bit lower compared to what you would get with the Lynk Co 01 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. However, you do have so much more torque over here, 350 Newton meters, and you really feel every single bit of that torque. While it isn't as instant as what you would get in the electric motor of the plug-in hybrid, it still is more than good enough in terms of response because the 8-speed ISIN transmission is super responsive. Yes, it's not as lightning quick as dual clutch transmissions, which you'd usually find in some of the other Chinese vehicles or even German vehicles of this class, but it still is more than good enough. Truly, you won't really find yourself lacking with this 8-speed transmission over here. The suspension setup, it really is tuned to be a little bit more on the firm side of things, and don't worry, it isn't jarring in any way. It doesn't hurt, it doesn't make you uncomfortable. It is still good for Manila roads, even with all our bad roads. However, when you do push this car over corners, it has a tendency of remaining pretty flat insofar as cars of this size and weight goes. Now, couple that suspension setup with a very nice all-wheel drive system, and you have a recipe for a very enticing car to drive around mountain roads. So you can truly have a rugged vehicle, a rugged SUV, yet still maintain all the sleekness and all the sportiness that a sportier vehicle could provide you. The steering inside here is pretty nice too. It's not too heavy for the city. In fact, it is pretty light, and on the highway, it does tighten up a lot to give you a very reassuring feel. But arguably, the best thing about the Lynk Co 05 would just be how smooth it is on the highway, because it is just whisper quiet and it tracks incredibly well. You could be going at extra legal speeds and you wouldn't really know it. You really do have to keep your eye out on the speedometer, and you could easily get a ticket when you drive this car because everything is just quiet, it's refined, there's no vibrations. Even at like 140 in a private track, for example, it still just tracks incredibly straight, not any vibrations at all. You feel like you're just going 100. Super refined. This really does feel like a much more expensive vehicle, like a proper Swedish car or a proper German car. This can easily compete against those. The advanced driver assistance systems that you do get in here, including your lane keeping assist and your lane departure warning, all of that, your adaptive cruise control, they all work super smoothly on the highway too. This car can practically drive itself and practically steer itself too. You still do have to keep your hands on the wheel once in a while, but yes, it does an excellent job. And fun fact too, the advanced driver assistance system, the entire suite of it, actually comes straight from Volvo. So, you know, Volvo is very good at safety technology, and they really have incorporated it in here in the Lynk Co 05. So the Lynk Co 05 all-wheel drive is honestly very impressive. It has an amazing powertrain, it has an amazing chassis, it has great creature comforts and great tech too on the inside. And come on, even the outside, even though I'm personally not a big fan of it, I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are. But now we have to talk about pricing, because this car right here, you might think that it's about the same price as the BMW X4, for example, or maybe even a Porsche Macan because of just how refined and well built it is. Well, no. This costs about half of that at only 2,748,000 pesos. Now, if you still think that that's a little bit too expensive for a Swedish Chinese vehicle, well, there's something that I failed to mention in this video, which I mentioned a lot in the Lynk Co 01 video. And that's because underneath this Lynk Co 05 all-wheel drive is actually a Volvo XC40, which kind of like puts everything into perspective, right? So think about getting a fastback like Volvo XC40 for less than 3 million pesos, then now this car is starting to make a lot of sense, right? So if you are looking for these sleek and rugged fastback looking SUVs, now's the time for you to pick one up. And for the first time, you don't really have to spend over 4 million pesos anymore.